YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my review for the DX Kyoryuzin from Zyuden Sentai Kyoryuger. What year is this? Alright, so here we have a review for a newly released, remastered, articulated version for Kyoryuzin, as we have the 10th anniversary, I believe it is, for Kyoryuger this year, and we have incorporated it into the King-ohger TV series, so we got a release done in the more articulated style of the King-ohger mecha, which is super cool. It's never been one of my top favorites, but I have always loved the series, and I have always loved the designs, so I think this is super cool to get. So, let's go ahead and go over the basics. So here they are individually. Now, obviously, for the little ones, they aren't really articulated, they're just kind of, there's not much you could do. Like, imagine if they had fully articulated little stubby things here, but otherwise, you can tell they're a lot smaller than the original release, and when I get it together in mecha mode, I will be doing a comparison, but they are a lot smaller than the original one, which is notable, but they are very well done. I have to say, there's not a lot of details on them, but they don't seem that cheap looking or playing at all. Honestly, it's funny because I have been talking in recent years about how the Sentai mech feel of like the plastic has gone down in quality, but these all feel very solid. To be fair, the King-ohger ones all feel solid in general, but this feels like one of the most solid releases in the King-ohger line. But the only thing you can really do is move that as part of the transformation. You can't even move the drill or anything like that. You can obviously open this, which is a little bit different, which is kind of weird. Like, you open it here and it seems like it's not opening all the way, but this is how you're supposed to do it, and you can see there it uses regular plugins rather than the previous release, which had like Judenchi and stuff, so that's not involved at all. And then you got Stegochi here, who is also, again, very solid looking for what they are. A lot smaller than the original release, but very solid looking. And the only thing he can really do other than open this for transformation is there's a little sword bit here, because this pops off for the sword, as you may well know. But Gabutia here is the one that houses the most articulation. You can see here already, you got like his mouth open here, and you can move his head and neck, which is really nice. It gives it a lot of personality. Like, if you have this on display, just being able to do something like that just gives it a lot of, well, personality. I know that's a word I like to use a lot, but I think that's really neat. Obviously you're going to be able to do cool stuff when you have the mecha all together, but if you do happen to just really like Gabutia and want it like this, I like that it gives it that animated look, not personality at all. Now I just said it by trying not to say it. I mean, you can move the legs here like this, but this is part of the transformation. You can't really bend them like that. You can move the feet a little bit though, so you can't really do any like crazy poses or anything. This kind of looks like, oh, I'm just going about my day, guys, type of pose and stuff like that. But it's overall very good looking. There are parts where you can sort of see, behind the curtain a little bit in terms of how it transforms. But overall, still, I think it looks good. It feels solid. I think the paint and the plastic looks really good and vibrant. I'm really pleased with this. And I could honestly see myself wanting to display it just in this mode because I think it looks overall really solid. Now let's go ahead and transform it. It's pretty much for the most part as you remember it. Alright, and there you pretty much have our articulated Kyoryuzin there, which is really cool, and I have to say, it looks really good. Again, also feeling very solid. I don't feel any loose joint problems or like the plastic is brittle. It's got that quality collectible feel, because obviously, when you import these things, they're going to be a little more pricey than some of the other stuff you buy, and this is one of those items that actually feels like it was worth it. Now, for the articulation, you primarily have it like in the arms and stuff, which is really great, as you can see, and you can move the head around, and you can move the legs here. You can't bend the legs. Like, there is this aspect of bending that happens only because of the transformation. Like right here, you can see that happens because of the transformation into the King-ohger mode. You can move the feet here a little bit on a ball joint, but I'm bothered by the fact that that's hindered. I'm not like a toy engineer, so I'm not sure how you would do that if it was possible to have it so you could bend the knees and also do the transformation for King-ohger. I have to say though, and I'll get to my thoughts more in a second, I think that the King-ohger mode is kind of half-baked, so if there was somehow a way to have leg articulation but no King-ohger mode, I would be fine with that. But overall, just look-wise, it's still great, and it is nice to be able to do those things. Like, even something like this, like I just kind of accidentally have him kind of posing with his arms like this, and he looks a little bit more epic and dynamic, and it's just really, really cool. I'm really happy with this. Honestly, one of my favorite releases and a great update. Before we get to the... actually, we're going to do the comparison now. Before we get to the King-ohger mode, let me just do a quick comparison to the original release, just so you can get an idea. Okay, so here we have them next to each other, and you can see the differences. Obviously, the old release being kind of, it's more of that classic Sentai brick mecha you can see there. I don't think look-wise it looks bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think the colors look vibrant. It doesn't represent it in like a really terribly ill-proportioned way or anything. Just sitting there on this shelf, it still looks solid. But obviously, I'm not sure exactly which one's more accurate in terms of the proportions. This one's just way cooler, though, being able to pose it and stuff like that. There is something very significant of note. You probably noticed that he doesn't have his backpack on that it fell over is I have heard, and am now experiencing it, that these things can experience degradation over time. This thing is terribly falling apart. That's why I kept having pieces fall apart, just trying to bring this guy over from the table he was sitting on. Blue and pink kept falling off, the backpack kept falling off, and this leg here has popped out of the socket. And it hasn't, from me dropping or anything, it's just like degraded to the point where it's like just completely falling apart, like it's being erased from time. So that is something to note. Your mileage will vary on that. Honestly, I haven't had very many Sentai or PR mech really degrade that terribly. This is really the first one of such significance, but if you have experienced that, that could be a significant reason to upgrade it. And it is funny to talk about the quality of Sentai toys of the past, because like the plastic, like just the feel of the plastic on that feels solid, but it's obviously not solid anymore in terms of function, and this feels very solid. I'll be curious to see how this and the other King-ohger mecha hold up. Obviously, again, worth noting another difference is this one also does feature electronics. It just depends on what's important to you, but yeah, that is just a significant difference to note. Alright, so there you have the King-ohger mode, which is honestly fine. I feel like it's really half-baked, to be honest. Like, it looks pretty cool in that pose, and I appreciate them finding a way to sort of give him T-Rex arms and stuff like that. And it looks kind of cool holding the King-ohger weapon and with the wings and stuff, but it just, again, feels so half-baked. It just feels like a sort of Zord Builder creation that isn't even one of the more creative ones. Like, it was done by one of the least creative kids using Zord Builder. I think if it were me, and this is more of a critique of their approach of incorporating this into the show and stuff and less of the toy itself, is I would have still released this because I think it's really cool to have this updated version of Kyoryuzin, and I actually kind of hope it opens the door to get updates of older Sentai mecha, but still release this as is, still compatible with the King-ohger stuff, so you can do stuff like this, and because it is compatible, you can do even more and, you know, do other crazy fun combinations. But then for the actual crossover mech, I would have released maybe like some sort of Gabutira-esque mech that was maybe like a hybrid Bug Dino design or something that was a hybrid between both to give them a truly unique hybrid mecha. Since it is such a cool concept, and it sucks that it's basically just him with a sword and shoes. Like, it's just not that cool looking, and it's probably the weakest link of the overall toy. And also in regards to like the dragonfly stuff on the back, like I get putting the dragonfly on the back because it kind of gives him wings, but what's the point of putting the helmet back there? Like, no one's gonna see it unless you're posing it from the back. But that's really my only negative about this toy, is that I just feel this mode could have been much cooler. Not to mention, then you're left with these guys on the side here, which is one of my least favorite things. But again, that's not like a knock on the quality of the toy, it's more about the design of the hybridization. But setting that aside, my mixed thoughts on the hybrid aspect, I think this is a really great release. One of my favorite releases in the King-ohger mecha line, even though it's, you know, Kyoryuger. So if you're a Kyoryuger fan or you just like seeing him in the show and you're liking the articulated mecha so far, I can highly recommend it. It's a really cool and good-looking mech, even if the hybrid, you know, concept is a little bit half-baked. But that's about it for this one, guys. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.